Hi everybody, welcome to Studying with Zahra. In today's video, I'm going to be tackling the Pearson Edexcel International GCSE English Language B Paper 1. And I'm going to be doing only language analysis today, which is question number 3 and also question number 6. But for today, I'm only going to be doing question number 3. And then if you guys want, just let me know. In a later video, I can do question number 6 as well. But the question is, explain how the writer presents the information about the What 3 Words app and how it is useful. So this is basically based off of a text, which is down below, and I'm going to go to that in a second. But if you want, you can write down this question. It says you should support your answer with close reference to the passage, including brief quotations. So again, I'm going to try and be really quick, and then I'll create a separate video of my response to this question. It might not be perfect, probably won't be perfect, but it might just give you an idea of what to write. So for now, we're just going to be analyzing this text. We're basically going to be dissecting it, and if you want to do really well, if you're aiming for 8s and 9s in your paper, then you want to have a perceptive understanding. So you want to look for things that other people might overlook. Don't just look at the surface level stuff. You really want to dig deep into the text. So a GPS app that can find anyone, anywhere. Right off the bat, anyone, anywhere, alliteration, and it's also exaggeration because there's no way an app can find any person in any location. In common with perhaps 15 million South Africans, Eunice Wafe does not have a street address. Her two-room house is in a village called Relila in a fertile hilly region of the Limpopo province, 5 hours drive northeast of Johannesburg. If you visited Relila, you might be shocked by several things the village lacks: modern sanitation, decent roads, reliable electricity, before you were struck by the lack of street names or house numbers. But essentially living off-map has considerable consequences for people like Eunice. Or Eunice, I'm not really sure how to pronounce that. It makes it tough to get a bank account, hard to register to vote, difficult to apply for a job, or even receive a letter. Okay, so starting off, we can see in the first sentence, 15 million South Africans, that's a statistic. Does not have a street address. Her two-room house is in a village called Relila in a fertile hilly region of the Limpopo province. And then they're giving the specifics, so they're telling us it's a 5-hour northeast drive of Johannesburg. Now, Johannesburg is the capital city of South Africa. And by giving us this information, firstly, it's showing that the writer is really aware and knowledgeable about this topic, but it's also giving us the exact specifics. And so it's setting this scene of this completely isolated and obscure location that is completely far off, that is almost entirely inaccessible. So before they even mention the app, they're creating this need for this app by setting the scene and by giving us an example of this, again, completely remote village. Okay, so there's also an assonance, by the way. There's an assonance at the end. Makes it tough to get a bank account, hard to register to vote, difficult to apply for a job or even receive a letter. They're basically showing that this village lacks the basic modern amenities. Okay, moving on. For a moment, though, those ongoing concerns are eclipsed by another, large anxiety. So they're saying that she's 9 months pregnant and her first child is due in 2 days. Now, by giving the example of a 9 months pregnant woman, they're adding this sense of vulnerability. So it makes the reader feel apprehensive and almost protective over this woman that they might not even know, because there's this element of motherhood. And then there's a first child, who obviously is a lot more scary. It's a lot more scary when it's your first child and a lot more confusing. So again, that adds to the tension. And again, it just makes the reader feel empathetic towards this character. She's not quite sure without an address how she'll get to the hospital. The nearest hospital is 40 minutes away by car. Now, right off the bat, again, this is just a completely juxtaposing idea. It can't be near if it's 40 minutes away. Those ideas are completely contrasting and it's completely paradoxical. And putting those two together just shows the reality of the situation. And it just shows how helpless she might feel as well. So it says if there are complications, if the baby arrives at night, she might need an ambulance. But since no ambulance can find her house without an address, this will necessitate her getting out to the main road. So basically, they're using complex sentences, and again, they're adding this sense of tension and stress to the text by creating these hypothetical situations that haven't really happened yet. And that overall, what we just read was an anecdote. So it gave us an insight into what Eunice might have felt like. And later on, there's another anecdote that I'm going to go over in a second, and that's very contrasting, but very juxtaposing. But we're going to go on that later. So I've come up with Up to Ralala with Dr. Coney Liu. He's harnessing the power of ethos because he's giving us these names, these names of specialists, charity, gateway health, fashion, desire to make a change for these women. By using the word these, they're basically making us feel like we know who these women are, when in reality we don't. I think that's it for that paragraph. So again, I'm just trying to kind of go over it, but just go through the main points. 5 years ago, they divided the entire surface of the planet into a grid of squares, each one measuring 3 by 3 meters. There are 57 trillion of these. That's logos, so they're giving us logic, and they're resonating with us on a logical level. So they're giving us an insight into what the method was like, and so it might be simple, but it's also really smart, and it's an ingenious method that, it makes us want to download this app and see what it's like. Again, I think that's pretty much it for that app, for that website, for that paragraph. Okay, the next paragraph is what I was talking about before. It was the anecdote that they're, the second anecdote. So the idea of Chris Sheldrick, they're basically telling us whose idea was, like all the best ideas. By saying this, they're basically harnessing the power of ethos. They're basically saying that this app is an amazing idea. It's one of the best ideas. And it establishes credibility, and it makes us trust the writer. So it also says he had set up a business organizing musicians and productions for festivals and parties around the world. The problem that damaged his business was bands turning up at the wrong site entrance. So this anecdote is a completely different one to the pregnant woman one. However, while they're both equally as contrasting, they're both really contrasting, but at the same time, in both situations, the people were left equally as stranded. And so what he's trying to say is that you could be in any situation. You could be in a completely undeveloped part of the world like Eunice Soafe, and you could be in a developed, technologically advanced part of the world like Chris Sheldrick. But you could still need this app, and you could still have a dire need for this app. So he's done a really good job establishing this need for this app. He did that at the beginning with, by creating this scene for the first 2 paragraphs without even mentioning the app itself. And now he's doing it again over here. So he's also doing statistics, 40,000 recognizable dictionary words. You have 64 trillion combinations, and there are 57 trillion squares. So he's using statistics. He's also telling us the math researcher at Trinity College, Cambridge, and a full-time quiz obsessive. So it's basically making the reader feel impressed. And then it tells us 10 governments and their postal services, including Mongolia, Nigeria, Ivory Coast, and Tuvalu. So this is basically telling us that it's a far-reached app that people in big countries like Mongolia and slightly unknown countries like Ivory Coast and Tuvalu, people all across the world believe in this innovation, and they're using it, and they believe in its potential. And that is, in a way, subtly persuading the reader to believe in it too. It's also telling us that it proved invaluable in disaster zones and refugee camps, as well as at rock festivals. The irony of putting these two together, it's another juxtaposition. Refugee camps and rock festivals are entirely different, but they're saying that this has been proved invaluable in both situations. So again, it's just telling the writer's just expressing or presenting and portraying this message that in any situation at all, you could need this app. In the last paragraph, he talks about, so if you look at the last sentence, it says, beyond this valley, there are 4 billion people without an address. That's half the global population. And the fact that they're mentioning that, again, it just establishes credibility, ethos. Perhaps technology can now put them on a map 3 words at a time. So he's leaving us on an optimistic note. He's making us feel this sense of optimism. And he's planting this seed of, hope in the reader's mind. And also curiosity towards what the future may hold for this app. And towards what changes this app may bring in the future. So again, they've mentioned pathos, ethos, logos. In the beginning, they mentioned pathos with the pregnant woman and all of that. They mentioned logos with, the methods, and then ethos with, over here at the bottom, and then also the governments, talking about the governments and the countries. So he's pretty much gone over everything. And I just went over everything briefly. Because I don't want this video to be too long, and I also just want you guys to get a basic idea. I don't want to hold you guys back, if that makes sense, because it's all about how you interpret it, and everyone interprets it in a different way, and as long as there's no right or wrong answer, as long as you're just backing up your answer, and it makes some sense, then it's pretty much correct. They also mentioned somewhere here Arabic to Zulu in this paragraph. The one starting the program behind what 3 words app took 6 months to write. So they mention it's available in a couple dozen languages from Arabic to Zulu, and the fact that they're mentioning a language as big as Arabic and Zulu, again, it's a juxtaposition. There's so much juxtaposition in this text, and there's a lot of other stuff as well. But Arabic is such a large language, Zulu is such a small language, and they're putting them together and they're showing that it's a vast range of languages. So that's pretty much it for this analysis, and then the next video, which I'll be uploading very soon, I'm going to be talking about my answer, my model answer. It's not necessarily something perfect, but I think it's pretty good, and maybe you guys can get some inspiration for that. So thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe and like this video. It really helps my channel grow, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.